Hey guys, Steven from Third Wheel here, and I'm just giving you a viewer discretion notice as today we'll be talking about heavy topics as depression and mental health as a whole. So just be a viewer discretion, and if you are going through anything and you are dealing with mental health issues, or you know someone that is dealing with mental health issues, it's very important to stay on top of that and take care of your mental health as well as your physical health. And today we don't really go over ways as far as like ways to reach out and like different therapy stuff, but we do go over our own situations and problems that we face with on the daily. So viewer discretion is advised, and enjoy the episode.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Third Wheel podcast. It's it's Grace and Steven and Brandon. Say hi,
Hey,
guys.
how's it going?
Hello.
As you can tell based off of the timestamp on this video, this is, I guess, what you can call just like a mini episode in between. Not quite a filler or a what did we call them?
Interlude.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not really an interlude episode. This is more just well, I guess it is
It's
kind of. It's a mini interlude, but
this is our
essentially,
filler arc.
This is the interlude to the interlude.
the reason we're having this is because, as you may or may not have noticed, there was not an episode posted last week, and all of us are fine. Nothing major has happened that prevented that. Probably my own laziness, but this episode might have like a more serious tone to it. I mean, I seriously doubt that we'll go more than like 5 minutes without making a joke, though. So don't expect to be completely depressed.
It's really hard to not.
It's it's in our nature to be very uplifting and make light of like kind of some darker situations. So don't think we're heartless. It's just the way we are naturally. Um, I think overall, vaguely, I just really wanted to talk about mental health. And for that reason is just because personally myself, I've realized that my mental health has not been that great lately between school and working full time and not really having much of a social life, which it doesn't sound like it because of all my weird stories. And the fact that I do a podcast is very like counterintuitive to what I'm saying. But um, I think that it's just like really important that we acknowledge how we're feeling, even if it's not necessarily how we're presenting ourselves to friends or strangers on the internet in this case.
Yeah.
Um, but I would like to preface this by saying I am fine. Uh, I am not like a danger to myself or other people around me. It is not anything serious of that nature. Personally, I've just been sad. So yeah, so like I said, I think a lot of my life has just been kind of claustrophobic. I don't know. It feels like a lot of aspects of my life are kind of condensed in with very little time for, free downtime, whatever you want to call it, free time, downtime. Um a rough outline of my day is not including the day we record the podcast. A rough outline of my day is I get up at 6 in the morning and get ready, eat if I have time, and then I leave by 6:55 every single day. And then I'm at work for 8 hours at least. Eight, I think 8.5 hours, because I leave around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And then I come back and there's very heavy traffic because I commute to work. So that's about 30 to 40 minutes depending on the day since I work in downtown Sacramento. And yeah, so I get home around about 4:30, 4:40. And then I have to do homework, which can take anywhere from 10 minutes to 7 hours because I procrastinate on stats homework a lot. So, it just really depends. And then That's it. And then by the time I get done with homework, it's usually like 6:37, and I'm so mentally and physically drained from my job and school that I don't have energy to do anything, you know. And so other other than podcast, I don't do a lot. And then I also pass out early around like 8:30, 9:30. So as as a whole, having such like a repetitive schedule of feeling like I'm not having enough time for myself, because although I do enjoy my job and I don't want anybody to think that like education is not something I enjoy, it is, but it's also important to realize that it is a very burdensome and thankless job. And so, as much as I love my kids, they are not at that point where they realize I am a human being with needs and I need to be acknowledged and validated in the same way that I am trying to give them, but they cannot give that to me because they're six. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, they're six. So, I am constantly caring for others in the nature of my job. And, I wouldn't necessarily call schoolwork like self care. So I feel like in the last few months that it's really been building up as we get to the end of the year towards summer, with a kindergarten promotion and with finals coming up. It was very present that just discontent was growing, for lack of a better word. So I really needed what little downtime I had to just be for me. Even when I was trying to come up with the topic, because I was the third wheel in our last episode when I was trying to come up with the topic, even using my free time to think of something for, other people. I do this for me, but, obviously this content is also for you, the listeners. And so having any part of my free time, my very limited free time, being spent on other people, when that's already what I spend a majority of my day doing, focusing on other people, that just seemed so very hard and such like an unrealistic goal at the time. So I would like to just say thank you to all of our listeners, because I do care, and for your patience in getting through this, because I know, navigating mental health and navigating other people's is very difficult. So overall, I just want to say thank you to our listeners, and thank you to Stephen for being so understanding when I kept saying later, later, later. But
Yeah.
how are you guys doing? I also want to take it and I want to take this time to check in and see how you guys are doing as well. That way, our listeners also have an idea of kind of how we're all doing. And, kind of as we're approaching summertime and finals and stuff like that, how are you guys doing?
Well, we're also entering into finals as well, and it would just be the false information to say that this year has been easy.
Yeah.
Even though like my schedule has granted me like multiple days off, and some of my classes have granted me the ability to not have to be in person. I also commute to school, so like that is kind of a drain. But like since most of my classes have been able to be like, hey, you don't technically have to be here, and other classes have required me to be there. It hasn't been the most stressful as far as like scheduling, but the difference between finishing your general education and moving into your more field related work comes so fast towards the end of the last, like your second semester in your second year. It comes really quickly, and that definitely hit a lot harder than I thought it would. Um, but yeah, so like this year wasn't necessarily easy, but it's not. I guess it's not too terribly bad that I'm super upset and stressing out about it. Definitely stressed out way more last year. So like yeah, it's going. It's
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair way to describe it. It's going.
Yeah.
I for me, this semester's been weird because I've had a class that I really enjoy doing and another class which I just makes me not happy. um, um, uh, as a computer science engineering major, we're required to take an electrical engineering class for circuits, and that has been interesting. Um, I've been told, like, going in, like, my freshman year going in, like, our university like required us to go to like one tutoring session to kind of check that out, see how that was. The guy who tutored me, I just chose to do it for like a computer engineering class where we were doing with just kind of like Boolean equation circuit stuff, and he told me that it's weird because yeah, computer science engineers have problems with like the circuit stuff, but it's like, programming whatever is fine, and then like the electrical engineering majors, great with circuits and stuff like that, but then when they're introduced to like programming, like whatever board like, they struggle with that. Oh, yeah, no, I definitely see what he's talking about.
You can see the flip. It's like that thing where it's like if you're really good at math, you're not going to be good at English or vice versa. It's
Yeah.
just like people who are good at English, just statistically, are like just not as good at math. And I abide by that statement because I
Mm,
hate English so
yeah.
much,
Yeah.
and that's why computer science is relatively easy. And also, I thought going into circuits it would be fine purely because of the fact that like you can't really get you can't really get too advanced with circuitry as far as like what the math looks like, right? Well, I guess what the equations look like. The equations are always going to be the same, and everything is going to be with it. And like it's no different really than just normal physics. It just has an emphasis. But it's like with every single thing, with every single circuit, there's a different problem to it. There's a different thing to it, which requires you to add something else to this function, or
Yeah.
because like one of the things that you do is like the sum of everything, and you need to know what all those different factors are and all this other crap. It's no different than like a normal physics problem. It's just something else about the entirety of the class is just not there. Missing pieces somewhere that we just can't seem to grasp, because you'll understand something, you'll work through it. This is the class that I've studied the most for out of any class I've taken ever. I went through high school, middle school, elementary not having to like study. I just was able to retain information and know it and get it done, and I've been able to do that somewhat through college as well. I focused a little bit here and there because this stuff is a lot newer than what I learned in school. I figured that a lot of stuff in high school and in elementary was just kind of repetitive in a sense. So I was able to just kind of like look at it, know it, and just make the connections. But you kind of can't do that when you're starting to learn new things and new principles and all this other stuff. And circuits was one of the things that I was just like, oh, I know how to do that. I know how to do power, like calculate power, voltage, all that stuff. I played around with this stuff as a kid and like blew up batteries because it was fun. Um, but but like I go into circuits and then all of a sudden it's like I have a stick and a rock and I'm trying to make a car out of it, and I'm like, what the hell?
Well, yeah, another thing too is that I think it's just hard. Like, if this was the only class we had to take or whatever, I don't think it would be that bad. But just this class, and then on top of like all of our other classes, that's just a
Mhm.
lot,
Yeah.
and it's hard to like make time for it. Well, you also have to make time for like all your others, kind of not so like easy classes and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
I wouldn't say that this year has been the hardest year that I've taken, but it's definitely up there just
Yeah.
because of the work that we have to do. There wasn't a lot of actual actual assignments. There wasn't a lot of tests. There wasn't a lot of anything for me this semester. It was just the work that I had to do was so much more like intense than other classes that I've had to do. I've had to, I like I, everything was super spaced out and it was super organized, and there was never a day where I was going to be working on multiple things all like and have to get them done all in the same day just because of how my classes were this semester. But every single day I would be working for a few hours at least just on whatever assignment I'm working on, just because of the fact that there was so much stuff with it. It's it didn't seem like it was gonna be a lot, and all of a sudden it was, and especially towards the end of the year, and it's like,
Yeah, this semester too, it's weird because I agree. I don't think it's the hardest semester I've ever had before, but this semester's like the first time where I've had like actual, or I've been experiencing like actual burnout. Like
hmm
I've like usually burning out at the end of the semester and stuff usually just hasn't been a problem for me, but it like hit hard this semester. Like when I meet up with like you or like other friends and stuff to like study for stuff, I just lose. My mind just goes way sooner than like it used to
I
do.
don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Flash a picture of Brandon out of his mind when we were at the KC, just putting his head down in despair. Have you seen that picture, Grace?
I have not. I would
I
love it if
will
you could send it to
send
me.
you that right now. I'm throwing it in the third wheel chat. It wasn't taken by me. I was sitting right next to him, so I got the side profile of it. But
I love
yeah,
that.
Brandon had said something, like slurred his words, and like was trying to like recuperate, and then just slams his head into his arms on the table, and just slams his head down. And on his iPad, you can see there being circuits. You can see that he's working on circuits, and you could piece together everything.
I love. Oh, what's so bad about this picture is like he looks like a comp sci major, and his hair is so long and overgrown.
Yeah, YouTube visual, you can go check that out. You want to see sad Brandon? It's pretty good. Yeah. Burnout is something that everyone's going to experience, even the kids who enjoy school. Because I'm going to admit, I'm not one of those kids who enjoyed school. I liked going to school because I had a lot of friends. I went to a small school for most of my life, and now I'm at a big college. But I enjoyed going to school because I knew pretty much everybody. So it was just nice to be able to be around people. I went into high school, same thing. Plus, all of my family went to the same high school, so all my siblings were there. So, like seniors and juniors, when I was a freshman, knew who I was. Staff members knew who I was. I was like my other sibling's brother. They knew me as that before they knew me as Steven. So everything was super comfortable, and going through classes was pretty easy because I had several of my friends in the same classes as me, and it was kind of like repeat information and just getting a little bit more advanced one step at a time. Especially with math was pretty simple and pretty steady in its increase. Once you start with geometry and go all the way to calculus, it's a pretty steady increase. If you do good at just base algebra and base geometry, like you will do good up in like for a while, if you can maintain that. But it just other classes didn't increase sharply, weren't like a super steady increase, but like the environment was super nice and enjoyable, so I was able to stick with it. And that's not the case when you switch to a bigger school. You're like, there's 300 people here who also just don't want to be here, as opposed to only 20 people who don't want to be there. It's such a different beast.
It is, and I think that at least for me, I had because my first year when I first started the podcast, I was away from home for the first time during my first year of college. Now in my second year of college, I have been at home and been working full time. And I can honestly say that the biggest piece of advice that helped me through that first year that was really, really hard was my dad had told me, you know, everybody will tell you that college is going to be some of the best times of your life, and it will. But what's important that you need to know is that it will also be some of the hardest and loneliest times
Mhm.
as well. And you need to take care of yourself because they will happen. And it was, for me, it was very hard seeing so many of my friends from high school thriving, meeting new friends, joining clubs, doing and like accomplishing so many things that I wanted for myself. And I wasn't doing that, and I wasn't thriving. And so I think it's really important to emphasize that, nobody's experience is the same. And sometimes you will be lonely, and sometimes you will just be like, partying and living it up. but
Mm-hmm.
both are equally valid and normal college experiences,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
And yeah, one of the most important things is that, like, just understanding your mental health. No matter where you are, mental health problems exist all across the board. There's not just one area, not one thing. You don't have to be like a certain level of like sad or stressed. And there are some people, including myself, who just don't know how to handle stress. One thing that hits me at the end of every semester and every school year is just a really bad sickness, because I don't know how to let my body stress in a way that's healthy. So it stores and builds throughout the entire course of the year. I keep like pushing it off, just ignoring it, to the point where when it's all said and done, I realize just how stressed out I was. And my body doesn't catch up to where my brain is. And so it's a combination of my brain just ignoring my body, telling it to kind of like slow down and take a break and take care of itself. And then when my brain actually listens, it realizes just how like sick and stressed I was, and then just allows that to pile on in one moment. So it's no matter where you are in the stage of uh, being stressed or experiencing transition, everything, it's important to understand that mental health is really important. It's not something that you just need to push away and shove aside.
And another important topic, similar to what you're saying, is sometimes it's very hard to recognize when you need help or how to change things. And I am no expert, and I still don't know how to solve a lot of my problems, just because, you know, they've been there so long, they don't go away overnight.
Hmm.
Finding a trusted friend, colleague, or, just overall someone you can put, trust and faith in is really, really helpful in being able to talk out those emotions. I know specifically the way I first started that healing process is when I was at Sonoma State. We had uh, a program called CAPS, and it was counseling. I forget the acronym. It was like counseling and something. But basically, it was therapy for all students on campus that needed it. And I have met. I was so against therapy in general, because repress, repress, repress. And so I thought, that was something you really have to keep like in family, and you don't need to tell everybody your business, etc. And like I said, it kind of hit ahead in my freshman college year. So I went to the CAP Center, and I met with a woman who just really understood me and really connected with me. And I think the fact that she knew exactly what to say was very healing and very therapeutic for me, even though it did not solve my problems, because you never truly can like rely on somebody else to solve your problems. You need to do the work yourself. But having that support system is really, really helpful. And I say this from experience. If you're not feeling heard or validated from a therapist, please keep looking. I did not feel validated, and honestly, I was kind of traumatized by my first experience where I was being blamed for other things that were outside of my control, and that deterred me for the longest time. And to those people that are struggling, I say push through. And of course, therapy is very, a privileged thing. Not everybody has access to it. And so, like I said, I really recommend that you check out your local programs and numbers. For me, you know, my college, that was a free service to me, a federally owned school. So I do recommend you look into, local and federal programs that may help you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also just important to find that one person, because, like you said, therapy is kind of a privilege and not everyone can afford it. And talking to a stranger may not seem like the most comfortable thing. I also see like the truth in talking to someone that knows nothing about you is the best way to get the most objective perspective, not objective but outside perspective, because if they have no idea anyone in the situation, and as long as you're being open and honest, there's only a few ways to interpret the actual story that happened, and
Hmm.
there's no bias or anything in that. But being able to find like one person that you can connect with and that you can share uh, important manners in your life, being able to talk to them about anything in your life, regardless of what it is, like having one person, even multiple people who you can just talk to about the things that are going on in your life and the stressful things, and maybe some of like your darkest moments and things like that, is such a big help. One of my friends that that people and I've talked about on the podcast. His name is Jake. We have like a video diary thing that we do whenever we get a chance to. It's pretty much it tends to be a daily thing, just one video a day where we talk about what's going on and things going on. And I've been friends with Jake since basically since like first grade. I've known him for pretty much my entire life, and once we like you declared to be in a science major, and I'm an engineer, we weren't going to get a lot of classes, and just in college in general, there's a lot of conflicting schedules and whatnot because choose your own class, pick your own path, kind of thing. But we maintain connection even though we're at the same college just by doing video diaries through Snapchat and telling each other what's going on. And I've talked to him about my poor dating record, and he's talked to me about his stress in the neuroscience department. So you can see how it's an equally weighted conversation of life
Yeah.
problems. But no matter what it is, jokes aside, no problem that you're facing, no stressor that's impacting your life is too big to keep. It's like too small to keep to yourself, or too big to tell other people. No matter what it is, being able to find someone to talk to is very important.
That being said, something I do want to say, kind of a downer. Um, it's also very important going into therapy or talking to somebody and getting an objective opinion. You are not always going to like what you hear, nor is your therapist or person you confide in like obliged or obligated to side with you. And I think that's really, really important for growth, is realizing that sometimes you're not always the victim. You're not always, the
Mhm.
person being like inflicted upon. Sometimes you are making mistakes, and that's really hard. My biggest pill to swallow is, you know, stepping outside and realizing other people are human too. And it sounds very simple enough in, you know, that like obviously someone is a person, but it's much harder to do. And for me to be able to heal from a lot of my traumas and, wrongdoings that have been done to me is realizing hurt people, you know,
Yeah.
traumatized
Yeah.
people end up traumatizing other people in trying to avoid what was done to them. But it happens in the opposite way, you know? And so
Yeah.
I've learned that forgiveness is very, very hard because none of it was done with poor intention. And this is very specific to me. This is not invalidating anybody else's experience, but sometimes it's important to acknowledge that even though you were hurt, and of course there's no excuse for that, there usually is a reason behind it. It wasn't done out of malice or hurt. Usually it's done from a place of hurt from within that person. So just know sometimes you are not going to like the answers you hear, but it is going to help you grow as a person.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But
Um,
I think I mean, at least I have said my piece, but if you guys have anything else to add, I'll leave it to you guys to finish this
um,
mini episode.
well, just to put another kind of aspect to it, for me personally, stuff that I think it's also important to just kind of find. I mean, if you're not able to find someone to talk to, I think it's also good to just kind of find other venues just to kind of like if you are feeling stressed or something like that. Like for me personally, I've been wanting to like get in better shape and stuff, so I've been just kind of every day just been doing like little exercises and stuff like that. Like I got a pull up bar and stuff like that, and I feel like just doing activity or just any honestly like any of your hobbies or anything like that, I think those are important, just kind of avenues to help with more specifically I guess pertaining to like stress and stuff like that. I mean, um but yeah, I yeah, just having those kind of things just to kind of help just and it doesn't have to be anything big. I don't think, like I said, the stuff I do is just a little bit like everyday sort of thing, but I mean it just kind of varies. But
Yeah, finding ways to take care of yourself is really important, and one of the things that really defines like a good way to take care of like mental health just without I guess not like it's not good to keep everything in yourself and use that and like and just keep it to yourself and not share it, but like being able to find a way to express like express yourself through different hobbies and being able to release different stress and tension in other hobbies and things. One thing that goes around like Instagram and stuff is like an audio that is relating to different sports, and it's just like when I am doing this the voices stop and everything's quiet, and it's like your mind is going to be racing, and the whole aspect of mental health is there's always like some problem, there's always something going on, and it builds and it slowly builds, and when you let it slowly build you'll get to the point where it's a lot. But being able to like find something that you like and that you are into and that is a part of you, and you can express yourself freely and normally through it is such a benefit, and it's such a plus. And also being able to come out of your comfort zone, especially when it comes to transitioning from colleges and or just schools in general, is really important to be able to just kind of step out of your shell a little bit and let people just see you for who you truly are, and being able to just try and just be yourself when even though you might be afraid of people judging you or whatnot. It's just, yeah, it's a very important thing, and mental health is something that people joke about a lot, and I feel, but it's like something that everyone can relate to on one level or another, but it is something that needs to be taken seriously.
I think humor is also kind of an outlet for some people, whether you consider it healthy or not. I think that's also just another reason
Yeah.
why it is joked about a lot. But
Well, yeah. There's nothing wrong with having stress and being stressed and being upset. These things, they're looked upon, they're considered negative emotions, but there's nothing wrong with being in a state of sadness and stress. Like, it's how you handle those situations that's really important. Being able to handle your stress and maintain your stress, and being able to grow through like sadness and depression is something that is really important. You can't have the good moments without knowing what the bad ones feel like. It's the whole yin and yang aspect. Like one has to come with the other, and it's how you maintain it's how you maintain the relationship of both of them. That's how you're gonna see like actual true development. So
I agree. And something that, even I don't really like is acknowledging that health, or not health, stress is actually healthy. We just need to learn how to manage it in better ways, because when we let it build up, or we don't, deal with stress in the correct way, then it starts to become unhealthy.
mhm.
So you just need to learn how to read like what your body needs, what your mind needs. And it's a process. It takes time, trial and error.
Definitely. All right, well, stay tuned for more episodes for Third Wheel Podcast. And thank you to everyone listening to just the episodes in the past. Thank you to everyone listening to today's episode. And just remember to take your mental health seriously. And it's always good to find outlets to deal with everything that you're going through. But just make sure that you stay on top of your mental health.
Once again, thank you to everyone listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed, and we hope that you guys are doing well physically and mentally. It's very important to keep your mental health and monitor your mental health. So I just hope that everyone out there is doing all right. Remember that there are methods and outlets in which that you can relieve stress and talk about your problems. If you don't have a trusted friend or if you don't have people in your life, there are always people that you can go find. There's online services, there's in-person services, there's ways to get help. So I hope you guys are taking care of yourselves and taking care of your mental health. Thank you for listening to this episode, and I hope you enjoyed, and stay tuned for the next episode of our podcast.